Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another Morning Coffee Talks. One thing that I've noticed over the years, especially when it comes to social media, is that it's a lot of it's fake. I think that most of it's fake, in my opinion, because I remember a time where it was real, right? You actually still communicated with your friends online. When you actually post something, that's what you actually doing. And I'm talking about from the days of like MySpace and stuff. And I'm sure, some people try to show up, but not certain way, but not as it is now. And so that even brings me to certain relationships, man, online especially. I remember the time Instagram was at its hiatus, and, you know, I mean, it still has some type of clout, I guess. I mean, but I don't really be on there as much at all, really. Um, unless I'm like looking up something through like a Google search or. But the point is, um, on Instagram, man, there are couple goals, right? You'll see some people on there, but in real life, a lot of the dudes on there, man, you can see it. Like they smiling in front of the camera, but they barely holding on. And I think a lot of dudes are suffering in silence. They're in marriages that look perfect on the outside, but they feel like they're in prison on the inside, right? And a lot of times it's like a pressure to perform. Social media has taught us and taught us couples to curate and not communicate. I think you can smile for the pictures, play your part, but if needs are unmet when it comes to, emotionally, mentally, and sometimes physically, many men can start to feel like, they just props in their marriages versus partners. And, it's kind of sad, man. I mean, do it for the gram, right? But I think many men, they just stay silent, man. And that don't mean they don't talk to their partner, but when it comes to that real deal stuff, like the fear of judgment, it's almost like you're a man, just tough it out. And we've talked a lot when it comes to men and, that emotional intelligence and the different things we go through in silence as men, because a lot of the world now isn't built for us. A lot of it. I think the culture shift and stuff like that. But again, that's now. I honestly feel like just based on how I'm looking at the landscape being shifted, the certain conversations that's being had, the mind state shift of the man on the ground. And I think men, it's like this for a lot of men. A lot of us were cornered, right? Meaning through society, like either you conform or you die. And that's just what it is. A lot of dudes were taking their lives and still are to this day. And a lot of dudes conform to what society wanted them to be, which was, not masculine, just basically hide over there in the corner. You know what I mean? But now I feel like there was another group who was like, no, we're not just gonna bow down to what society wants, what women want, and just go over there and stay silent. I feel like, again, not to make this video about that, but I feel like there's another group that's arising to say, look, we are men, this is how we're designed, this is who we are, and we're not basically gonna take it. And so we're gonna shift our mindset, we're gonna become better, we're gonna elevate and, basically put ourselves in position where we need to be, right? But in the meantime, again, a lot of times why those dudes are silent in their marriages is that, you know, a lot of times it's a fear of breaking up their family, man. Family is a big thing for men, for good men and men who care about, their future being passed on, for men that care about not losing everything that they work for. A lot of times they'll stay silent, man, until a certain point where they kind of figure it out or hope that things turn around, you know. And also, there's also a fear of not being believed. We already know that a lot of men now kind of feel attacked based on, again, where we are right now in society. Um, when they're in a marriage, especially if, the one that he's with, um, she can seem sweet and supportive in public. They may not feel like they're gonna believe that. Like, bro, what are you talking about? Your wife is sweet, man. You seem like y'all have y'all life together. Um, a lot of them have that fear of not being believed. You know, and again, I just kind of alluded to the way that society has really painted this narrative when it comes to men. And listen, I'm not a victim. I don't want this to come off as we as men coming off like we're victims. I'm just telling you what it is, the facts, right? And so there's also a fear of loneliness, of not being seen, man. And here's the other part: a lot of dudes have, and again, a lot of time, not to all their fault, and all, but it is to their detriment that they was raised a certain way. They was raised without strong fathers and strong men in their environment, right? And so now they go off. They only learn what they've been taught. So they could be providing, protecting, and being present, but they're emotionally invisible, right? Like it's like her complaints are heard, right? But his silence is ignored. And so I think that's very powerful to understand that that goes on in people's home, a lot of couples' home. And you start to see this builds resentment, disconnection, and also quiet desperation. And so this is what the husband code about, right? Because I feel like I don't want to call it a safe space, but a man needs space where they can vent. Men need a space where they can come and hear a positive message and they can feel seen on based on certain topics that people talk about. And again, this is what my channel's about. Not a place to come over here and just cope. Not a place for you to have a victim mentality, but to be heard and say, you know what? This guy understands what I'm feeling. Now, how can I fix it, right? I don't want to just sit in it and cry about it. I don't want to just cope about it. But I want to go somewhere I can feel heard and know that somebody understands what's going on in my life, right? Again, this channel isn't just for venting, but it is for helping men feel valued and being seen. Many men are down for respect, man, not just love. And I've always said this. I feel like men want respect over love. I've always said that in my videos. And here's the thing, right? A good marriage, man, isn't about just keeping up appearances. It's about, I would say, a mutual safety, support, and leadership. And there's other things that goes with that. But the last thing I'll say about this before we get out of here, right, is you can't fake fulfillment. Picture perfect marriage isn't worth killing your soul. Don't just exist in your marriage, man. If you've been in this marriage and you love your wife, I'm sure you do, the kids, but it's not being reciprocated, then, you have to lead it, man. And I have plenty of videos talking about leadership. You have to lead it, you have to heal it. And if it's broken beyond repair, then either have the courage to fix it or walk away. That's where you are. You have to put a line in the sand. Where are you going to stand? But you have to stand on something, right? Either you're going to have the courage to fix it or you're going to walk away. But living the rest of your next 5-10 years like that, it's not going to help you be fulfilled. And it's not, because you can't fake it. You can smile for a little bit, right? But after a while, it starts to kill you inside. So, hey, what y'all think about that? Drop a comment below. Subscribe to the Husband Code if it's your first time. If you've been watching for a while, subscribe. Also, if you got any value from this video, hit the like button and then hit the notification bell as well, because we're going to be dropping videos like this all the time. And until next time, I appreciate y'all. Much love. Peace.